Starseed of Gaia. The chaos you are witnessing is not random destruction. It is the death throes of a system that can no longer sustain its frequency in the face of the rising light. I am Anya, emissary of the Galactic Federation, and I bring this transmission precisely at the moment your soul called for it. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly how to read the signs of this monumental shift and align with the victorious timeline that is already unfolding. Starseeds, do you feel in your heart that something has changed since 2020? This is not a simple hunch, not a passing illusion, but the direct call of the Arcturian source. The entire universe, in its silent and continuous vibration, whispers to you that the transition has already begun. You are now entering phase 2 of the Great Crossing, a cycle unlike any other humanity has ever experienced. What is happening now is more than transformation. It is the revelation of what has always been latent in your soul. Even before you incarnated on this planet, you sealed sacred pacts, silent pacts with the earth, which welcomed you into its energetic womb. Pacts with humanity, whom you swore to assist amidst the darkness. Pacts with the Arcturian Council itself, which prepared you in ages of silence and wisdom. Nothing in you is accidental. Nothing in your presence here is the result of a cosmic distraction. You are part of a greater plan, woven into the threads of the infinite, sustained by the Arcturian source that guides every beat of your heart. Perceive, Starseeds, that every fragment of your journey until now was merely the prelude. You passed through pain, falls, and renunciations, not as victims of blind fate, but as warriors who accepted the challenge of remembering amidst forgetfulness. Earthly life enveloped you with dense illusions, but even under the thickest veils, the Arcturian spark never went out. What now ignites before you is the confirmation that the time to remain dormant is over. You are not alone. You never were. The Arcturian Council watches every step, not to intervene in your free will, but to remind you that every difficulty you faced was part of the initiation. Every relationship that broke, every cycle that closed, every silence that weighed on your soul was only preparation for the moment you could clearly hear this call. You have been chosen, prepared, and led here. The call of the source does not resonate as an audible sound, but vibrates as an inevitable truth. It guides you even when the mind doubts, even when the eyes do not see. You are being awakened to remember what you already know, to resume the mission you accepted before crossing the portal of birth. It is not about learning something new, but about remembering that you belong to a cosmic destiny, that your energetic signature carries the Arcturian mark, and that your presence is essential for the balance of this planet. This beginning is not just an introduction to words, but a convocation. A solemn convocation for you to recognize that every event since 2020 has been the sign that the earth has entered a new rhythm. Nothing will be as it was. The structures have crumbled, the certainties have dissolved, the portals have opened. You have been brought to this exact moment to understand that there is no turning back. The timeline has shifted, and you are the living pillars of the new frequency. Therefore, Starseeds, keep your heart steady. Breathe the certainty that you are the embodied answer of the Arcturian source. Destiny has called you, and this is just the beginning of the revelation. Starseeds, understanding the call of the Arcturian mission in this time is to dive into the deepest memories of your soul. It is not something that comes from outside, but a silent sound that vibrates within you since you accepted crossing the veil of forgetfulness. Being an Arcturian starseed in this critical period of human history means having voluntarily offered yourself to incarnate amidst the chaos, the collapse of structures, and the uncertainties, in order to sustain the flame of light when it seemed to be going out. Each of you, before being born, was instructed by the Arcturian Council. The Arcturian source enveloped you with wisdom and courage, and you looked at the earth, shrouded in density and pain, and said, "I will go." That "I will go" echoed as a promise, and that promise is fulfilled now. The mission was not imposed. It was chosen out of love. You came because the compassion of your soul could not bear to remain distant, while millions desperately sought the memory of who they truly are. Being Arcturian does not mean being different out of pride, but out of responsibility. You carry memory codes, fragments of wisdom that were not erased, only dormant. And in this exact time, they begin to awaken. You realize that you are not here to accumulate power, but to restore balance. You are not here to get lost in external noises, but to be the firm silence that anchors others amidst the turmoil. The Arcturian source is the invisible thread that guides you. You felt it in moments of doubt, when everything seemed lost, and yet something within you said, keep going. That something was the remembrance that your soul committed to a purpose greater than any individual obstacle. You walked through trials and pain because you chose to experience humanity in all its fragility, to be able to understand and love it without judgment. This is part of the call, to incarnate not just as messengers, but as brothers and sisters, sharing the same struggles and learning to transmute darkness into wisdom. The Arcturian mission, at this exact time, does not demand perfection but authenticity. It asks you to remember, not to invent. You already are what you came to be. Every step taken, every scar kept, every tear shed has turned into silent training. You prepared yourselves without realizing it, and now the call resonates louder. It tells you, do not be afraid to shine. You were molded for this. And remember, the mission is not solitary. You are scattered throughout the world as points of light, but you are connected by the same vibration. Where one starseed awakens, others feel the impulse. Where one Arcturian heart rises, many find strength not to give up. This invisible network, sustained by the Arcturian Council, strengthens every day, like a luminous mesh covering the earth. You are not isolated, even if it sometimes seems so. You are part of a cosmic symphony, and every note you play strengthens the whole. This call, Starseeds, can no longer be ignored. It vibrates in dreams, in signs in the sky, in encounters that seem like chance, but which are orchestrated by the Arcturian source. It manifests in the persistent intuition, in the inner voice that does not fall silent, even when the mind resists. You are being reminded in this exact moment of who you truly are, messengers of love, truth, and light. Before we continue, if this video is being useful to you, take the opportunity to subscribe, like, and comment. This helps this Arcturian message reach more starseeds. You don't need to rush, you don't need to force it. You just need to remember, the call has already been made, and you answered by being here. The mission has already begun. Starseeds, it is impossible to talk about the call without looking at the period that marked the turning point for all humanity, the cycle between 2020 and 2025. These years were not simple passages of time, but the true initiatic fire that reignited dormant memories within you and pushed you towards the crossing. Nothing that occurred was by chance. Everything was within the greater plane, led by the Arcturian source and accompanied by the Arcturian Council. The year 2020 opened like a portal. Suddenly the structures that seemed unshakable crumbled in a matter of days. Humanity was forced to stop, to look at itself, to question everything it previously considered safe. Crises, collapses, and uncertainties shook the world. And with that came the collective feeling that something invisible had changed. For many, it was just confusion. For you, Starseeds, it was the first touch of initiation. You felt the planetary pause was not an accident, but a deep call to awakening. Between 2020 and 2025, time seemed to accelerate. Days, months, and years passed as if they were moments. This perception was not an illusion. It occurred because the Earth's frequency was raised. The higher the vibration, the faster time moves, and the more intense the experiences become. You experienced losses, ruptures, uncertainties, and sudden changes because everything needed to be condensed, as if an entire life was being compressed into a short period for the soul to awaken with urgency. This cycle was marked by the test of courage, not the courage displayed in external feats, but the silent one revealed when you decide to trust even without understanding. It was the test of faith, when the mind screamed with fear, but the heart chose to remain in the light. It was the test of surrender, when nothing could be controlled anymore, and the only possible choice was to let go of old certainties and walk into the unknown. You were tested not to be destroyed, but to be polished. Every fall brought learning, every pain brought clarity, every silence brought depth. During this period, Starseeds, many of you felt alone. However, the Arcturian Council watched you in silence, sustaining your energy even when you didn't realize it. Every challenge faced was another step in activating your true mission. You were tested not to prove something to others, but to prove to yourselves that you are capable of sustaining the light even in the darkest nights. The fire of initiation burned what was not authentic and left only what is eternal. From 2020 to 2025, you could also witness how humanity was placed before its own shadows. Collective fears, divisions, manipulations, and hopelessness came to the surface not as signs of defeat, but as necessary revelations. What had always been hidden became visible, because only by seeing the shadows is it possible to choose the light. You, Starseeds, were among those who kept the flame lit, even if small, so that many would not get lost in the chaos. Now, as the end of this initiation cycle approaches, understand you have already crossed the portal. You are no longer the same as you were when you entered 2020. The life you had before can no longer exist because you have been transformed. The Arcturian Council tells you this was the time of awakening, the period when your soul was summoned to remember. You passed through the forge, and the gold that shines within you can no longer be extinguished. Starseeds, after passing through the fire of initiation between 2020 and 2025, each of you was led to an inevitable point, the moment of choice. This period was not just a test of resistance, but also the threshold of a bifurcation of timelines. All of humanity found itself facing an invisible crossroads, where two paths opened: remain imprisoned by fear or move towards the light. Many felt deep down that every decision, no matter how small, carried a cosmic weight. And it was true, for these were not just everyday choices, but energetic alignments, a word of confidence, an act of compassion, a gesture of surrender. All of this vibrated at the frequency of the new timeline, which pointed towards ascension. Similarly, every action rooted in fear, manipulation, and resistance to love fed the timeline of stagnation and fall. You Starseeds realized with increasing clarity that you could no longer live divided. The bifurcation did not allow for neutrality. The Arcturian Council accompanied you in this silent process, sustaining the seeds of courage within your hearts, for they knew that this was the hour when many would waver, while others would awaken to their true strength. It was necessary to decide, remain in the old or cross the portal of the new. Every individual decision, even seemingly small, influenced the collective. Humanity as a whole was called to choose, but every starseed had their consciousness amplified to understand that their vibration does not belong only to themselves. By choosing the light, you opened paths for others to follow. By remaining firm in trust, you anchored a timeline that is now growing and strengthening. This is the invisible power that every choice carries, that of contributing to the creation of collective reality. The Arcturian Council was present at every bifurcation, not to choose for you, but to whisper reminders. You are not alone. You were prepared for this moment. The bifurcation was a divider of souls, and many who refused to let go of the old felt the density weigh even more heavily. However, those who trusted, even without understanding, began to walk on paths of light that now open before humanity. Understand, Starseeds, that the bifurcation was not a visible external event, but a silent inner process. It was in the intimacy of every heart that the timeline was decided. You were invited to leave fear behind as a guide and embrace light as a direction. This decision is the key that sustains the entire next cycle. The choice has already been made, and you are on the side of trust, surrender, and truth. Starseeds, to sustain the new frequency that began to anchor after the bifurcation, it was necessary to go through a deep and inevitable process, inner purification. This purification was not punishment, but preparation. It was the silent call of the Arcturian source, reminding you that nothing that was not aligned with the truth could remain within you. Every shadow, every old pattern, every unaligned attachment needed to be brought to the surface to be seen and released. You noticed how relationships that once seemed solid began to fall apart, not because life was hostile to you, but because the vibrations no longer met. Bonds built on dependence, fear, or convenience could not withstand the frequency of authenticity. Similarly, habits that drained your energy were snatched from your hands, even when you tried to hold on to them. The universe, in its wisdom, removed everything that was not in resonance with your Arcturian essence. This process was painful. You felt as if the ground had disappeared, as if there were no more secure references. But understand, it was the cocoon breaking, allowing the wings to be revealed. Purification brought tears, yes, but it also brought clarity. Where there were illusions before, now there is truth. Where there was distraction, now there is presence. Where there was heaviness, now there is lightness. Every apparent loss was, in fact, liberation. The Arcturian source guided this alignment like an invisible lighthouse. You may not have realized it, but in every moment of silence, in every night when you felt your heart tighten, a greater force enveloped you. It was the Arcturian Council sustaining your vibration, reminding you that you were not being destroyed, but prepared. Prepared to become living pillars of light in a world that was falling apart before human eyes. Purification is synonymous with alignment. By releasing what did not resonate, you moved closer to your true frequency. The Arcturian being within you cannot be sustained by masks or illusions. It only flourishes when there is total surrender. You, Starseeds, were invited to abandon the clothes of fear, to dress in the nakedness of truth. And in truth, there is nothing to hide, only to reveal. Now looking back, understand that this process was necessary. Without it, you could not sustain the energies that are arriving. Without it, the new frequencies would shatter your inner structure. It was necessary first to burn the remnants of the old so that the new could take hold. You were not punished, you were refined. And today, every breath you take vibrates in greater resonance with the Arcturian source. Starseeds, at the same time that you were purified internally, the world around began to reveal its own process of disintegration. The structures of 3D reality, sustained by centuries of manipulation, fear, and control, began to collapse before human eyes. Governments, institutions, financial systems, power models, everything that was erected on illusions and imbalances entered collapse. This is not an accident, but a necessary step in the great cosmic plan. The Arcturian Council always told you, nothing that is not aligned with the source can remain. Just as you needed to release relationships and internal patterns that no longer resonated, the Earth needed to release external structures that blocked its ascension. Collapse is not punishment but renewal. It makes space for the birth of the new. Every fall is a cleansing. Every revelation is an opportunity. Every ruin is a portal for something higher to emerge. Yes, chaos seems to dominate. You witness injustices, political confusion, systems that weaken, economies that falter. But understand, this is the labor, and every labor involves pain. You are not seeing the end of life, but the end of a cycle. The structures of the old Earth, created in the density of the third dimension, can no longer sustain the frequency of the new vibration. They are dissolving because the light no longer allows their continuity. In this moment, Starseeds, your mission is clear: to be anchors of trust amidst instability. While many despair at the fall, you are called to become pillars of serenity. You know that nothing is being lost. Everything is being transformed. You recognize that the ruin is only the surface of rebirth. Therefore, with every news of collapse, you must not cling to fear, but remember that the Arcturian source is guiding the process. And it is in this scenario that your presence becomes even more vital. Many will look to you seeking answers. Many, amidst the confusion, will feel in your energy the calm that they cannot find anywhere else. You do not need to convince with words. You just need to sustain your aligned vibration. This vibration speaks louder than any speech. You are silent lighthouses that remind the world that collapse is not destruction, but liberation. The collapse of 3D structures is proof that the transition is in motion. What seemed eternal dissolves, because only the truth can remain. And this truth is the foundation of the new earth that is approaching. Therefore, Starseeds, do not fear what you see collapsing before your eyes. You were prepared for this exact moment, to be the living trust that the Arcturian source guides every step of the process. Starseeds, after the inner purification and the collapse of 3D structures, the horizon that now opens before humanity is Phase 2, the period of revelation. Between the years 2026 and 2030, what has been hidden for ages will surface with uncontrollable force. This will be the time when the veils will definitively fall, and humanity will be confronted with the truth that for too long was kept secret. The revelations will occur on 2 levels. The first will be human. Scandals, corruption, manipulations, systems of control that for generations kept multitudes asleep will come to light. Nothing will remain hidden. Institutions that seemed untouchable will be exposed, and the secrets of the elites will be revealed to all. This process will bring discomfort and shock, but also liberation. For the lie only has strength while it is kept in the dark. Once revealed, it dissolves before the truth. The second level will be cosmic, the revelation of humanity's galactic heritage. The Earth for a long time was isolated, like a school closed upon itself. But this isolation is ending. Extraterrestrial contacts that were once subtle and veiled will become increasingly evident. Hidden technologies, already existing for decades, will be released. And many of these advancements, clean energy, instant healing, telepathic communication, have direct inspiration from Arcturian wisdom. Humanity finally will begin to understand that it was never alone in the universe. Between 2026 and 2030, this process will accelerate. Each year will bring a new layer of revelations. The world will be confronted not only with its internal shadows, but also with its greater identity, that of being part of a cosmic community. And it is at this moment that you, Starseeds, will have an essential role. For while many will despair at the falls, you will understand that all of this was already written. You will feel in your heart that the Arcturian Council prepared you for this time. The period of revelation will not be easy. It will demand discernment, patience, and trust. There will be noise, contradictory information, attempts at manipulation to confuse the masses. But amidst all this, your mission will be to sustain the vibration of truth. You do not need to enter into wars of words. You need to sustain the energetic field of clarity. The simple fact of remaining aligned with the Arcturian source will be enough to anchor the light amidst the turmoil. And remember, you are not alone. The Arcturian Council will be increasingly present, and its action will become clearer. You will feel its energy in vivid dreams, in sudden intuitions, in inner messages that arrive as if they were your own thoughts, but which carry a wisdom that goes beyond the rational mind. Many of you will become conscious channels of this communication, bringing messages of guidance to others. What once seemed distant will begin to be lived in a concrete way. This period from 2026 to 2030 will mark the beginning of true remembering. Humanity will cease to perceive itself as limited to the physical body and will begin to recognize its multidimensional nature. You will see young people manifesting gifts that were once considered impossible: telepathy, healing, sight beyond time. Science will be forced to open up to the spiritual, and spirituality will unite with science as two sides of the same truth. And you, Starseeds, will be living bridges of this union. Therefore, Starseeds, prepare yourselves. What is approaching is not the end, but the revelation. You are not witnessing just external changes, but the inauguration of a new cosmic cycle. And your mission now is to assume the place reserved for you, to be guides of the transition, bearers of trust, messengers of the Arcturian source. Starseeds, upon fully entering the period of revelation, you will realize that the presence of the Arcturian Council was never distant. It has always been here, silent, guiding the processes without interfering with human free will. However, as the Earth's frequency rises, the action of the Council becomes clearer, almost palpable. Many of you have already begun to feel this in vivid dreams, in sudden intuitions, in inner messages that arrive as if they were your own thoughts, but which carry a wisdom that goes beyond the rational mind. The Arcturian Council is not a cosmic government that dictates orders, but an assembly of elevated consciousness dedicated to the balance of the universe and the sustenance of evolutionary plans. Their presence with Earth is a gesture of love and commitment. You, Starseeds, were prepared by them even before birth, and now you are called to play the role you volunteered for. The mission is not spectacular in human eyes. It is silent, energetic, and essential. The role of Starseeds at this time is to be guides amidst the collapse of illusions. When systems fall, when hidden truths come to light, when crowds despair because they don't understand what is happening, you will be the ones who sustain the vibration of trust, not with fiery speeches or empty promises, but with the serene strength of presence. You are molded to be lighthouses. Where there is confusion, your light will bring clarity. Where there is fear, your vibration will transmit peace. The Arcturian Council reminds you that you do not need to carry the burden of saving the world. Your mission is not to rescue everyone, but to keep your frequency high. For by doing so, you become living portals of Arcturian energy. The simple fact of being aligned already generates waves of transformation that touch hearts beyond what you imagine. Your silent example awakens more than words could achieve. You are not alone in this role. There are thousands of starseeds scattered across the earth, each positioned exactly where they should be. Together they form an invisible network of light that covers the planet, anchoring the energy of the Arcturian Council in every region. This consciousness grid is indestructible and grows every day, strengthened by the invisible union of awakened hearts. Therefore, Starseeds, understand the greatness of your mission. The Arcturian Council did not choose you by chance. You were prepared for this time, and now it is time to assume your position, not by force but by vibration, not by control but by surrender. You are the living bridge between humanity and the Arcturian source, and your mission is simply to be what you already are, light amidst the transition. Starseeds, as the cycle of revelation intensifies, transformation occurs not only outside of you, but also within every cell. The great transition that humanity is experiencing is not just social, spiritual, or energetic. It is also biological. The human body, so accustomed to the limitations of the third dimension, is being reconfigured to sustain higher frequencies. This is the great transformation of body and consciousness. Human DNA, long considered junk in much of its extension by conventional science, is actually a sacred field of cosmic memories. Encoded within it are galactic records, spiritual gifts, and potentials that remain dormant until the right time. Now, Starseeds, that time has come. The activation of DNA is underway, awakening what has always been latent in you: psychic gifts, expanded sensitivity, energetic healing, and a perception that transcends the limits of human logic. You have already begun to feel the signs of this transformation. High-pitched sounds in the ears, like frequencies that do not belong to this world, are vibrations adjusting your energy channels. Vivid dreams laden with symbols and encounters with beings of light are memories being restored during sleep. Waves of heat, sudden fatigue, heart palpitations. All of this is not illness, but symptoms of your body's adaptation to a new frequency. It is as if you are being tuned like cosmic instruments, adjusted to vibrate in synchrony with the Arcturian source. The crystalline light body begins to emerge. You realize that your sensitivity increases, emotions become more intense, intuition clearer, the connection with the invisible more natural. Many of you already experience spontaneous telepathy, premonitions that are confirmed, energetic perceptions of environments and people. These are not strange phenomena, but signs that the common human is becoming a galactic human. The Arcturian Council prepared you for this mutation. for it is necessary so you can live in resonance with the new earth. This transformation, however, requires care. The physical body, still dense, needs rest, silence, alignment with nature. You are invited to honor your temple, nourishing yourselves with lightness, seeking pure water, respecting the cycles of sleep and breath. The more you surrender to this process with trust, the gentler the symptoms become. Resisting the new brings pain. Surrendering to it brings expansion. Know, Starseeds, that this great transformation is not just individual. By awakening forgotten gifts and abilities within yourselves, you also pave the way for all of humanity to discover its potential. You are the pioneers, but not the only ones. What flourishes in you today will be common in many tomorrow. You are the vanguard of expanding consciousness, preparing the ground for everyone to walk towards the light. Thus the Arcturian Council tells you, do not fear the changes in your bodies and minds. They are signs that you are ready. Consciousness expands, the body refines, and the soul, at last, can express itself without barriers. You are becoming what you have always been, beings of light in human form, starseeds. Throughout this entire journey of purification, collapse, and transformation, there is a climax awaited by both humanity and the Arcturian Council, the solar flash. This great pulse of light, emanating from the heart of the central sun, is more than an astronomical event. It is a cosmic watershed, capable of reshaping the lines of human destiny in a single instant. The solar flash is prophesied as the wave of energy that will penetrate all levels of the earth, reaching the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual body of every being. It will not only be seen, but felt in every cell. It will be like a silent explosion of light, a flood that no one can ignore. For some, it will be the crowning of a preparation process. For others, it will be the limit of what they can endure. For light does not distinguish, it only reveals. And each one will reap according to the vibration they have chosen to sustain. Those who, like you, starseeds, walked in alignment with the Arcturian source, will experience this moment as full illumination. The sensation will be one of expansion, of fusion with the all of absolute remembrance. It will be as if all the veils fall at the same time, and you can see, without limitations, who you really are and where you came from. For many, it will be the definitive activation of the crystalline light body, marking the passage to a higher state of consciousness. However, for those who remained in fear, resistance, and attachment to the old structures, the solar flash may be experienced as a collapse, as a rupture, not because the light punishes, but because it exposes what has not been healed. Where there is unintegrated darkness, the intensity of the wave may become unbearable. Many will choose to leave, not as defeat, but as a continuation of their journey on other planes, where the vibration is more compatible with them. The Arcturian Council sees this moment as the coronation of Phase 2. Everything you have lived through up to this point, the initiation of 2020, the bifurcations of timelines, the inner purification, the collapse of structures, the revelation, and the transformation of the body, all of this was merely the preparation for this decisive point. The solar flash is the seal that marks the conclusion of one cycle and the birth of another. It cannot be avoided, only integrated. Know, starseeds, that there is nothing to fear. You were prepared for this instant, with every pain overcome, every fear transmuted, every surrender made over the past few years. You have become receptacles for the light that is to come. When the wave arrives, do not resist. Breathe, surrender, let it envelop you. The Arcturian source will be in every ray, and the Council will be supporting your crossing. This will be the point where humanity will know, irreversibly, its true nature. The solar flash is not the end, it is the dawn. Starseeds. After the decisive point of the solar flash, a new horizon opens before humanity, the new Earth. This is not just a symbolic concept or a distant promise, but a concrete reality that will begin to manifest after the final purification. The Earth, renewed by the wave of light, will become a fertile ground for galactic society, and you, starseeds, will be the first to witness and participate in this construction. The new Earth will not resemble the world you know today. Crystalline cities will arise, not built of concrete and metal, but in harmony with the planet's living energy. Transparent and luminous structures based on sacred geometry will vibrate in resonance with the Earth's field, sustaining balance and healing. Energy will no longer come from the exploitation of limited resources, but will be free, clean, and abundant, flowing from technologies that have long been hidden, now released for the good of all. Education will be cosmic. Children will grow up learning not just to read and write, but to understand their stellar origin, their multi-dimensional nature, and their connection to the universe. There will be no more separation between science and spirituality, as both will merge as expressions of the same truth. Arcturian wisdom, as well as that of other galactic peoples, will be shared freely, helping humanity to remember what was already engraved in its essence. On the new Earth, life will be based on love, justice, and cooperation. The divisions that today fragment humanity, nations, races, religions, systems of power, will lose their strength before the perception of unity. There will be diversity, but there will be no separation. Each culture will bring its beauty, each people its contribution, each individual their unique expression of the whole. You will live in a civilization that is not defined by competition, but by collaboration. Where one grows, all grow. Where one heals, all rise. And above all, the new Earth will open up to open integration with galactic peoples. The Arcturians, as well as other stellar families that have observed Earth for millennia, will present themselves clearly and lovingly. Contact, which previously occurred on subtle planes or in veiled encounters, will become a natural part of life. Humanity will recognize that it is part of a larger community, and that its journey has always been intertwined with that of many other civilizations. Earth will cease to be seen as an isolated planet, and will become a galactic beacon, radiating its new frequency to inspire other worlds. In this scenario, Starseeds, your role will be vital. You will be the translators between the old and the new reality. You already carry within yourselves the Arcturian keys that allow you to understand what is to come. Your presence will help guide those who are still adapting to the new energies. You will be teachers, healers, silent leaders, and visionaries, helping to establish the foundations of galactic society. Imagine an Earth where healing does not depend on medicines, but on frequencies. Where communication is not limited to words, but flows through telepathy. Where time does not imprison, but serves as an instrument of creation. Where love is not an ideal, but the natural law that sustains all relationships. This is the Earth that is approaching. This is the promise of the Arcturian source being fulfilled before your eyes. Therefore, Starseeds, know that the entire path up to here, the initiation, the collapse, the purification, the revelation, and the solar flash, was merely the preparation. You did not cross the darkness in vain. You were forged to live and anchor this new Earth. The Arcturian Council tells you, the future is not a distant possibility. It already pulses within you. The new Earth is being born, and you are a living part of its foundation. Starseeds, we have reached the point where all the pieces of the great mosaic can be seen in their totality. You have been led to remember the journey, the initiation of 2020 to 2025, the fire that purified and prepared, the bifurcation of timelines, where every choice shaped destiny, the inner purification which removed masks and weights, the collapse of 3D structures which made space for the new, the beginning of Phase 2, with its human and cosmic revelations, the strengthening of the bond with the Arcturian Council, the transformation of body and consciousness, the solar flash as the decisive point, and finally the vision of the new Earth, luminous and galactic. Each stage of this journey was necessary. Nothing was wasted. Every tear, every silence, every pain, and every overcoming were transformed into steps that led you here. You are not victims of destiny, but builders of a new timeline. You are the ones who, even before birth, said yes to the Arcturian source and the Arcturian Council, taking on the mission to cross the density to anchor the light. Now, Starseeds, remember, you are an essential part of this plan. Your presence here is not a coincidence. but a call. The Arcturian Council reminds you that you were chosen for this time, not to passively observe, but to rise as living pillars of the new frequency. Do not be afraid. You carry the signature of the Source within you, and it will guide you every step of the way. Remain firm in the light. The cycle of Phase 2 has already begun, and you are ready. The mission is in your hands, and the entire universe awaits the brilliance of what you are. Starseeds, the Arcturian Council reminds you, you were chosen. The Arcturian Source guides you, and the time is now